Welcome. This week, I'm going to show you mind-blowing video of how the voting machines were rigged in Chicago and possibly many other cities. And I realize this is like the third show recently where I've talked about how the primaries are being stolen, but this is the theft of our democracy. It's not like this is the third week I've covered how cucumber water is great for nipple perkiness in men. You know? Then you'd be like, Jesus, he's going a bit over with the cucumber. Was he bought off by Big Cucumber? This is terrible. But this week, I have video from the Chicago Board of Elections that brings into question everything we've seen in these primaries. In Illinois, it's mandatory that they recheck 5% of the vote to see if the machines are operating correctly. And people can go and witness this audit. They can watch as the machines are tested. And, you know, Saturday night free, do you go to the UFC fight or voting machine audit? Tough call. If you want to get laid, you go to the audit. Yeah. So here is what those witnesses saw.
Essentially, in the audit, they were erasing votes that the electronic voting machine paper record indicated had been cast.
So the hand tally showed that Bernie Sanders had gotten 223 votes and that Hillary Clinton had gotten 46 less votes. The hand tally showed that. Okay. But to meet the official recommended results, they had to literally erase Bernie Sanders' votes and add Hillary Clinton's. That's approximately 70 votes, 70 times about 500 active machines in the field, and there's more that we have documented here. Is a lot of votes.
What they're describing is election fraud. Person after person walked up to that podium and said the machines got the votes wrong, and the auditors covered it up. And I'm sure the Chicago Board of Elections officials and the people at those little tables were horrified at what they heard.
Now, that's not really the way we do an audit. I don't think that that's really a credible way of believing that we've got a fair tally.
Can I just ask you, because have you done audits before, or are you just going to?
I participated in other elections. I have not done audits before, but I have a background in political science.
Okay, because you're saying that this isn't the way to do an audit, and I just didn't know whether you had any experience previously.
F*** you, lady. No, she's not a trained auditor, but you don't have to be to know the numbers shouldn't be changed to match what the stupid machines say. I'm not a basketball player, but I know when I see a basketball game, okay? If I saw two people rubbing their faces in a bowl of clam chowder and I said, that's not a basketball game, would you respond, are you a professional NBA ref? Then shut up. The Board of Elections was just presented with full frontal election fraud, and their response was, you don't know. I'm not a professional sex worker either, but I know when we're getting
I apologize if, because of miscommunications or whatever, there was, some difficulty here, and I will see to it. I will make it a point to spend more time during the 5% audit out at the warehouse after the November election to make sure that there are any difficulties that are resolved immediately and we don't have to go into this.
You apologize if there was a miscommunication? Yeah, the miscommunication was that you were just told the election was not legit, and you responded with the same urgency as if you were told your shower isn't draining so well. Oh, okay, I'll look into that. I'll put that on a list here and file it under S for shut your fucking face. Look, these people, it's not like their job is to monitor elections and then also to collect the city's garbage and then to deal with the parking meters. They got to deal with they have one job. They have one job. So when they're told the audit was utter bullshit, their response should be, hold on, all of the machines God damn it! We gotta do this whole election over! God! That should be the response, not this.
There could be a misunderstanding as to how things are required to be conducted. Sometimes there are issues that need to be addressed, and we welcome your criticism and your observations.
Aw, do you welcome our observations? Our little observations and whimsical musings like we're Jerry Seinfeld? Have you ever noticed we live in a false democracy with the illusion of choice? What is the deal? This is how corporate tyranny works. It's anonymous and it's bland. It looks like a dopey guy in an ugly tie going, that's interesting that we totally rigged these elections. That is something I'll look into one day. But now, if you'll excuse me, I have a very boring wife who also dresses only in beige, and we need to go watch VHS tapes of The Price is Right together. But this is just Chicago. To prove the primary is truly being stolen, you would need to show irregularities throughout several states. And I will do just that. But first, I have to, well, start the show. Coming to you from Washington, D.C., the belly of the beast. This is Redacted Tonight. I'm your host, Lee Camp. This is Redacted Tonight. Now, where were we? Oh, yes, the slow strangulation of our democracy. Well, right now we're at the point where democracy is like almost out of air. You know, it's like... So we're at that point. So this is where the story starts to get a little weird. It has to do with the Washington Post attacking me and Tim Robbins. I'm not kidding. But we'll get back to that in a minute. So in order to prove election fraud goes beyond Chicago, we need some way to show that the people are voting in a manner that is different than what's being reported. Exit polls. The exit poll company Edison Research, which does all our primaries, tells us that the margin of error for a 95% confidence interval is plus or minus 4%. So let's see if any of the primary states in the Sanders-Clinton race varied more than 4%. Because if they do, something is very wrong. Let's see. Arkansas varied 6.7%. Alabama, 15.7%. Tennessee, 8.8%. Georgia, 12.4%. Texas, 9.9%. Massachusetts, 7.8%. Oklahoma, 6.8%. Mississippi, 10.4%. Ohio, 10%. And New York, 12%. Jesus! Did a blind monkey with an abacus run this election? So what does this mean? I'm told by mathy nerdy people that the odds of that many states exit polls skewing toward Bernie before the vote goes to Hillary by chance is 1 in 25,000. And if the states that voted last Tuesday also skewed in Bernie's favor, then the odds of that happening are 1 in 182,000. And the odds of New York having exit polls that are 12% off is 1 in 126,000. Roughly the same as my chances with Jessica Alba. So, I'm kidding, it's far worse than that. It's far worse. Now, this doesn't mean Bernie Sanders would have won all those states. But if they had at least counted all of the affidavit ballots in places like New York, the election would have been this close. And a lot of delegates would have changed places. I mean, I'm pretty sure, okay? It's not like I walk around with an election fraud expert on me at all times to verify this stuff, so...
Hey, Lee, Greg Palast here. You know, if they had counted all those affidavit ballots in New York, the election would have been this close. Have a good one.
Okay, so sometimes I do, but... So when I saw these crazy exit polls, I created a meme basically stating the numbers and how they likely show election fraud. Tim Robbins then retweeted my meme. I don't know Tim Robbins at all, except, of course, for the time we served together in Shawshank. You know, prison will change a man. It will. For example, I used to be an old black guy. Anyway, we were very close. Anyway, a Washington Post reporter named Philip Bump then attacked Tim Robbins for posting my graphic. And at first, when I found out the Washington Post covered my meme, I thought, wow, that must mean really good things for me. And then I realized the Washington Post covered my meme. That must mean really bad things for them. Just a comedian's meme. Oh, our media. Ugh. So Philip Bumpy then writes, Robbins is getting his thoughts out there again. For example, he tweeted this thing. God, this guy's quite a poet, isn't he? Robbins is getting his f***ing thoughts out there again. He tweeted this f***ing thing. So Bumpy goes on to explain how exit polls work. Think of it like waiting outside a movie theater to determine what sorts of people watched which movies. He goes on to give literally the dumbest explanation of exit polls that has ever been concocted. He says, as actual voting comes in, the exit pollsters refine their estimates since they now have a better idea of who actually came out to vote. Which is literally the opposite of using exit polls to determine fraud. What he's describing is using exit polls to confirm what the machines are telling you. Which is why my meme used pre-adjusted polls. To sum up Philip Bump's argument, exit polls don't matter. Tim Robbins can suck it. And he tweeted a thing. Go back to bed, America. What the Washington Post doesn't want you to know is that exit polls are important and reliable. Exit polls are well done these days. They're not just a half-drunk dude out front of a polling place in Poughkeepsie going, you're what, a Mexican? Or a woman? What are you? Write it on my donut. As Greg Palast told me, exit polls are even used by the U.S. State Department to measure election integrity in other nations. In fact, in some other countries, if the exit polls are off by more than 2%, people flip out. Things are set on fire. But here in the U.S., who gives a f***? Am I right? 12% deviation in New York ain't no thing, man. We're as deviant as we are. So, wow, maybe the exit polls are off because this is not a fair election. Maybe Bernie won so many caucus states because they can't be rigged with machines. But instead of looking into that, the Washington Post ran with the headline, you need to chill out, Tim Robbins. Really? Tim Robbins needs to chill out? The Washington Post ran 16 negative stories on Bernie Sanders in 16 hours. Jesus. Relax, guys. Your bias is showing. Bumpy's article concludes by talking about how crazy it would be to think that voting machines could be wrong or hacked or rigged. Yes, just ask Diebold. They used to run our voting machines until they were ultimately indicted for bribery, falsifying documents, and, quote, a worldwide pattern of criminal conduct. Basically, James Bond villains were running our voting machines. Honestly, I feel for you, Philip Bump. You're trying to defend a system that has recently been rated by a Harvard study as the worst in the Western world for fair elections. That sucks for you. That's like being the publicist for Bill Cosby right now. It's like, remember kids say the darndest things? That was fun, right? At the end of the day, We should all want a fair vote. It doesn't matter who you're voting for. We should want a fair vote. We cannot do like the corporate media wants and give up and go home. At the very least, we need to demand an unbiased audit of the machines and a count of the millions of provisional ballots, across the country. The other night, I started #ExitPollGate to call attention to this scandal, to unite those of us who see the truth, those of us who are not willing to be sheep, those of us who are divergent. And then the hashtag started trending, and then the star of the sci-fi thriller Divergent, Shailene Woodley, retweeted me and added, "Buckle your bootstraps, ladies and gents. Our work is just beginning." I'm not kidding. That's real. Look, those of us who connect the dots between the exit polls, we threaten the system, and it won't be safe until we're removed or shut up. We have to fight back.
Divergents threaten the system. It won't be safe until they're removed.